Welcome to Connections with BCD Travel, an ongoing conversation about the modern-day travel program, the impact of technology, and how travel buyers can take control and drive change. What are we waiting for? Let's start connecting.
Welcome back to Connections with BCD Travel, everyone. I'm your host, Chad Lemon. I work in digital strategy and advancement at BCD.
And I'm your co-host, Miriam. I lead partnerships and intelligence here at BCD Travel. Chad, I don't think we've opened up the Connections mailbag in a while. So what have our listeners been saying?
So true. We received an email a couple weeks ago that I really liked. The listener referenced the hotel sourcing episode. Remember that one? That we published. And they said that they were able to include one of the tips our guest Jennifer talked about on the show in their negotiations with a major hotel chain. Yeah, I really
making a
that.
difference.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, everyone. If you want to connect with us, all you have to do is head to bcdtravel.com/podcast and send us a note. Okay, Miriam, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about payment, and more specifically, virtual payments. So while the technology and the concept aren't new, advancements are being made all the time, including our own virtual payment offering. So on today's show, we've got Neil Fyfe. He's VP of Payments at BCD, and I can't wait to ask him about both the investments we're making in virtual payments at BCD and also the strategy behind what he and his team are going to be doing.
And we couldn't have a virtual payment conversation without asking our friends and partners from Conferma to join us. We're honored to have Stuart Davenport, Chief Product Officer with Conferma, a global leader and longtime strategic BCD partner. So, Miriam, let's jump right into it.
Neil, Stuart, so glad to have you both here. But Neil, I want to start with you. BCD moved you into your current role and built out a team so that you guys can be laser focused on virtual payments and innovation. So my first question is, why? Why is this so important to BCD? And in turn, why is it important to travel programs?
Virtual cards for all of us are critical for certain segments of the corporate travel marketplace. So specifically for non-carded travel, non-carded employees, infrequent flyers, infrequent travelers, contractors and recruits. There's a ever-increasing segment that is utilizing virtual cards in that space. And why are they using the cards? Well, they don't want to use their own personal cards or cash advances to actually fund the hotel, fund their travel, and then have the burden and the post-trip management of collecting the receipts and then reimbursement of all these expenses. Additionally, the travel managers benefit from ensuring the policy compliance, spend controls, and enhanced program security is critical to the overall program. So we recognize that this critical growing segment of travelers, and we need to build solutions that ensure that this particular segment is optimized and the experience of the traveler is. The traveler has great experience, and so they want to utilize the product over and over again.
So what's on your roadmap? What are the priorities that you and your team are hoping to work on over the first half year or coming months?
Yeah. The priorities are the focus of our team is really about increasing hotel acceptance rates and automating invoice reconciliation. So they are the two key items, and we're doing a number of things across the business to make sure that happens. And we're doing them in combination with Stuart and the Conferma team as well. So one of the key items is advanced communications. We want to make sure that we're ensuring hotels have the correct communication methods to maximize the acceptance of the check-in staff. Okay, so the check-in staff is obviously a key point. We have to make sure they're educated and make sure they know how to accept the card once it's come into their environment. As we push out the acceptance of cards outside of certain markets, we recognize that there's language challenges.
Right.
So we're working with Conferma to increase the languages that the communications are sent to the hotels in, so that if you're, maybe your English is not your first language, but the instructions can come over in your own language, so you can tell exactly what you need to do to accept the process and accept the credit cards when the client arrives at the hotel. Also, on the other side, for the invoice reconciliation, we are adopting the Conferma new reconciled API, which is the instead of receiving files for deployments, transactions, and invoices, we are integrating the new API into our digital invoice management system, which basically means that if you are a travel manager looking to see if you've got receipts, you've got the information, you will also be able to see statuses through the whole process. So you will see that maybe the hotel has been contacted for the invoice, and the invoice is pending. And then we also are integrating a product that Conferma has put forward, which is a self-created invoice. So you'll be able to see a invoice placement in the digital invoice management system before the actual folio arrives from the hotel.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
The last thing that I would say is we're supporting Conferma in the hotel portal communication. So Conferma's released a new portal so that hotels, it's an easier way for them to upload folios, so that that folio again can come into our digital invoice management system and be visible to travelers and travel managers.
Okay, I have to jump in here. I don't think it's a secret that there are some pretty common roadblocks when it comes to virtual payments and business travel. And Neil, I know I've heard you say that many of those are myths, and I'm sure we'll get to that a little later, but as a way of helping us frame today's conversation, what are the real major roadblocks? What's stopping enterprise adoption of virtual payments and cards? Because at the surface, it almost seems like a no-brainer, right?
Well, I think I touched on it a little bit in my first answer, and that is hotel acceptance. Hotel acceptance is still the number one roadblock to even wider adoption. But honestly, the truth is with what we're doing, what we've been doing over the past few months and what we are planning to do, we are already hitting the highest acceptance rates that we've ever had.
Really?
We're averaging 90+% acceptance rate at the check-in process, and we're averaging also about 91 or low 90% of the folio reconciliation rates, and we still continually, that's not good enough for us, and we are still working with Conferma to continuously enhance that direct property management integration so that we are still increasing those rates. So the focus again is hotel staff education, make sure that we've got the most optimal information at their hands so they can easily accept the payment. And then we're also generating data for the chain. So we are enabling our program managers on our side to have the data to go to the chains to say, hey, by the way, on average, you're at this percent. But by the way, you've got a few properties in these markets that maybe not quite up to par within, and they're kind of bringing you down. And at the end of the day, these hotels, these are customers utilizing these hotel services. The client has asked to pay using virtual payments because it's the most efficient way of processing the transaction. And so they should be interested in making sure that these individual properties don't bring down the whole chain. So that's another thing that we're really focused on.
Okay, Neil, let's give you a break for a second. Stuart, BCD and Conferma have been partners for a while. Talk to us about that strategic partnership, where it started, how far it's come, and maybe even where you see this going.
We were founded in 2005, and we initially launched our partnership with BCD in 2011. So we've had a really long-term strategic partnership with BCD. That kicked off by just using some of the booking tools that we'd already integrated into, predominantly in Western Europe. And I think over that time, the partnership with BCD Travel has just strengthened, really. And ultimately, it's about how we, Conferma, our technology, work really closely with the product teams at BCD to embed our capability into your platforms that you provide to solve problems for your customers, to make sure that one of those problems, which is payment, is as efficient, as slick as possible. So today, we help power BCD Pay's virtual card proposition, where we embed our technology through to the BCD points of sale, which is such as TripSource, where we enable virtual cards to be used at the point of purchase, and we also support invoice collection as well for BCD Pay's proposition. For us, we recently announced an extension of that partnership with BCD to just continue along that path and really power the next generation of corporate payments.
Stuart, what value do you think the partnership we have together brings to our global travel programs? What's the importance of staying really connected and having a strong partnership with a global TMC like us?
From a Conferma perspective, I think the the key word is global. BCD's strength in many different markets, supporting your global customers. Ultimately, what Conferma's building is global infrastructure, and we've effectively attacked the market and retrofitted virtual cards into all these 230 different platforms that historically accepted card. Well, now we've got to put a virtual card in there. But what our goal is to create that consistent payment experience on a global basis. BCD bring that global customer base and global issues, quite frankly, back to the table. And together, we're able to create that consistent payment experience for our customers to allow them to avoid, back to what Neil was saying, really, avoid those employees paying with their own personal cards, going through a laborious expense process, and getting refunded for those business expenses at a later date. We also jointly get the opportunity to educate the marketplace on virtual payments. So sessions like this, sessions like we had at GBTA, they're really important points to educate the market on the progress that's been made, and importantly, being made by both parties. And the other really exciting thing for me, even though we talk about global consistency, it's also recognizing that there are local nuances. So if you have a traveler from New York that is going to Boulder and they have a problem at check-in, it's both BCD and Conferma work together with that hotel to identify, well, what went wrong? How can we make the process better in the future? What are the options to make that better in the future? Because when another BCD client that is located in France decides to go to the same hotel in the future, they too benefit from that investment, and that close out of any friction that might have been had. So the net effect is a far better payment experience on a global basis.
Neil, I know I asked you about roadblocks, but I want to ensure that our listeners also know that we are seeing some successes when it comes to virtual payment. In fact, I think we're seeing some really great successes. So talk to us about what you're noticing. And if you can, what do you guess would be like the next big win, so to speak?
Yeah, so I would say that a great recent success we've just deployed is the virtual card rating displayed within our hotel shopping displays. So within our TripSource platform, we have integrated a scoring system similar to what you would put in as a hotel star rating, so 1 star to 5 star, so that as a traveler or a travel arranger, you can see directly on the front shopping screen that a hotel is either a 1, not so good, or actually not very good at all, or a 10, awesome at accepting virtual cards. Now, we're getting this information from Stuart Conferma, so he's looking at the global picture and seeing when deployments are integrated and transactions are occurring on those deployments, so you can tell that a deployment actually was successful at a hotel property. And we're getting those scores, and we're displaying those scores directly onto the booking screens for the traveler, so you can make very educated decisions. You can look in a market, you can see a list of 10 hotels, and I can filter on those 10 hotels, and I can say, you know what, I know I'm using virtual payments, or as an arranger, I know I'm sending a recruit who needs to have virtual cards enabled at the hotel. So I'm going to choose a hotel that's got an 8, 9, or 10 rating versus a hotel that's got a 1, 2, or 3 rating.
Stuart, Conferma really is the leader globally in this whole category. So I got to believe that since 2011 and even in the recent past, you guys have seen some great success and great growth. So tell us a little bit about what you've seen over the last few years in terms of growth.
Yeah, I think from a Conferma perspective, as you say, we're really lucky. We've got global customers, whether it's different systems being used in different markets, because there are, again, local nuances about how those cards are generated, and global business travel is global. So we get to see a lot of activity from lots of different partners, and broadly, from a Conferma perspective, we see adoption of virtual payments for corporate travel growing at 30% year on year. So that's really strong. So that's nearly 3 times the growth of the business travel market. So what's that showing is that more and more corporates are wanting to move to virtual payment to centralized spend. So that's a fantastic kind of tick in the box. I think other areas where we're targeting is how we are improving hotel acceptance as well, and that's really about how we're engaging with hotels from a Conferma perspective. So we announced in April that we had a direct integration with Hilton, so we were optimizing hotel acceptance with those guys at 9,000 properties. At GBTA in the summer in the US, we announced further partnerships with Wyndham, Omni, Thon, and Scandic. And we also announced, really importantly, the deprecation of fax, where we had a Ditch the Fax campaign where we smashed up quite a few fax machines. So if you've not seen that online, you should go and check that out. That's a fun video, which has, that campaign's won an award and has been nominated for another one. So super excited with the way that has gone. And again, on the piggybacking on that growth is also the expansion of the number of card issuers that are starting to support virtual cards and distributing virtual cards into our ecosystem. In the first half of 2025, Conferma added a brand new card issuer every 2 weeks. So the scale and penetration and normalization, I would say, is starting to be seen in the marketplace. This is a really hot product, and virtual payments, even beyond travel, is the fastest growing commercial form of payment in the world.
Well, I told you that we'd get into this sooner or later, but I want to have a candid conversation about the misses in virtual payments, the roadblocks, the issues, whatever you want to call them. And I think you both likely have thoughts on this, but I want to challenge you to not only tell us about the issues, but also what's truly a challenge and what's truly a myth. Neil, why don't you go first?
I would say the biggest myth for me is that hotels don't accept virtual cards. Or some hotels don't accept virtual cards. I'd say a virtual card is literally a 16-digit number. It looks and feels, it is the same as any other credit card. It's just associated to an account. And so the myth that suppliers or hotels just don't accept it is not true. If I booked a hotel and put my own credit card in and didn't show for that hotel, guess what? They would find the number and they would bill me.
Yeah.
So
problem.
So the challenge is that it's not that they don't accept it. The challenge is that the staff at the front desk are so trained to say, "Hey, welcome. Can I have your credit card and your ID?" And that's the challenge that we're faced with. And again, it boils down to education of the front end staff, and not the fact that you can't accept virtual cards. Anybody can accept a virtual card. As I said before, it's just a 16-digit credit card number.
Absolutely, and we have the same thing. It's not that hotels don't accept or can't accept. If they accept a credit card, and globally they do, they can charge a virtual card. The challenge is that consistency of charging a virtual card, and how guaranteed, what process are they following. For us, that's the challenge to solve.
So Stuart, what's next? What can the industry expect from Conferma and virtual payments as a whole?
I think, again, firstly, it's really important to say Conferma's doubling down and really investing into our hotel payment proposition that supports BCD travel. So we want to make sure that there's a really smooth traveler check-in process, invoice collection and tax reclaim. We want that end-to-end corporate hotel payment solution. But bigger picture, beyond hotel, it has to be about how we speak with our card issuing partners, because again, it's a different ecosystem to corporate travel. The card issuing world is how can they extend their credit lines to their customers and make sure that they capture all that spend as much as possible. So we all agree that physical cards, in 5 years' time, am I going to be given a physical corporate card to go and do my business expenses? Or do I have a card that's sat in my phone and I'm collecting my expenses on the go? So our vision is really to centralize as much corporate travel volume as possible through digital payments, particularly virtual cards. So hotel payments, air payments, ground payments. How do we make sure that we create that Uber experience where, they did a fantastic job where I order a taxi, the taxi arrives, I take a taxi, I step out of the taxi, the transaction's done. I didn't think about payment. I consumed the service in a really slick way. We want that to occur for those other key big ticket items within corporate travel. And then we also want to make sure that we are capturing their other on the go expenses, their incidentals, tapping into the subway, paying for a coffee, paying for a meal, a client event, a conference ticket. How do we make sure that we're bringing that together and issuing digital cards for those particular trips? And then starting to really build out that nirvana of total cost of trip, because we have a lot more data. We've not got 10 different ways that the company pay out for travel. We have one account, everything's centralizing back to that account against cost centers and project codes. That's the vision. With regards to that digital wallet capability, Conferma's got 90 commercial card issuers on the platform today, and 20 of those support Apple Pay and Google Pay. So more of those will be joining the platform in 2026 as well. So for us, it's all about that consolidation of and centralization of how corporates pay for their travel.
And Neil, same question for you. Where are we going, and what can our travel programs expect from BCD?
Yeah, so surprise, surprise, we're very aligned with what Stuart was saying. We are, we're really focusing on our strategic partnership to solve the problems together. We can put different influences on different parts of the business to make sure that they are together with us in solving some of the problems that we've got out there. We're going to be double downing on the mobile solutions, expanding use cases across air and low-cost carriers, as we mentioned before, and altogether just really shaping the future of payments in travel so that people look at us as a real leader within digital payments across the business.
So a few weeks ago, Miriam, you and I were at a BCD client event in North America, and I remember when the audience was asked about hot topics, payment and expense was the number one for them at that event in the room, and I think that was the first time I'd ever seen that. I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about this topic in the next few months and in 2026.
Yeah, I think payment expense is always going to be one of those big topics, right? Sure. I mean, it's the front end of how are we going to pay for something, and the back end of, do I need to reimburse a traveler, or do I need to reconcile the transaction? Either way, it's got to get paid and noted. So always going to be top of mind to our travel buyers. Well, that's all for this episode. Thanks, everyone. And until next time.
Thanks for connecting with us. BCD Travel helps companies travel smart and achieve more. We drive program adoption, cost savings, and talent retention through digital experiences that simplify business travel. Learn more about the topics you heard on this episode by visiting bcdtravel.com/podcast.